Hey, good afternoon, guys. So this week we're gonna do a review on the Neo and the Neo SLS. And what this is it's a wave kite that I've been using for a really long time. I've done a lot of reviews now on the original Neo, and now Duotone has this new SLS line coming out for a lot of their gear. And the big question here that a lot of you, myself included, are wondering is it worth the trade up to go for the new SLS over the original Neo? And more or less what you can expect is the Neo SLS, it performs a lot like the original Neo, but there are some differences that actually did stand out quite a bit. So I do have an opinion on if it is worth the trade up or not, and we're gonna cover what my experience was. I tested the new SLS kite in a wide variety of conditions, so super light wind, moderate and strong wind, side shore, onshore waves, and got a really good feel for it to compare to the original Neo, which I've done tons of reviews on. Super familiar with that kite. So I do have my own opinion if it is worth trading up or not, but we'll break down everything you need to know so you can make your mind up for yourself. So before I dive into the SL specifically, let's talk about the Neo in general and what you can expect. And I'll keep this short because we've done way too many videos on the specific kite. But more or less, it's a wave machine. So it has on and off D-power. So when you sheet the bar out, you can take all the power out of the kite. We've talked about how it's kind of like a dimmer switch. Like you can be really precise with your sheeting to control how much power you have. And as well, this kite has a ton of power per size. So we've been saying this for years, you always want to size down on a Neo because it's really easy to get overpowered on the waves. When I'm free riding, jumping, and doing other things with the Neo, I don't always follow the size down rule, but absolutely in the waves or on a foil board, you do want to size down on this kite. And what this makes for is a kite that's really easy to get upwind with. You can down loop it while you're sheeted out. There's no power in the kite, and you can really position it to get on the waves, to do your turns. And with wave surfing, it's kind of that game of moving the kite before you move your board and being able to actually surf the wave with truly the wave power and no kite power is pretty incredible. The kite does drift. After having tested a ton of wave kites, I will say that it's not the best drifting kite that I'm aware of, but it's up there. With that ability to loop it and take all the power out of the kite, you have a really serious advantage going out in the waves with, you know, a wave kite that's not a one-trick pony, and it's one that I've gravitated to for years and likely will continue to. So moving on to the SLS, what can you expect? How is it different from the original Neo? What are you actually getting? So the Neo SLS, it's the new construction. It has really thin bridle lines. The new control bar lines are obviously really thin, and then they have that new material that makes the kite so many ounces lighter. I honestly forget. But anyway, on the water with real life applications to these changes, what I found was the kite, it actually was more responsive. And this is something that I kind of laugh at in a lot of reviews because every year, every brand's like, oh hey, our kite, it's lighter, it's faster, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, the kites might be a little bit faster, they might be a little bit responsive. The next year, they'll slow it down a little bit. And they kind of do this game where they make these changes and just make small tweaks like that. But with the SLS, I actually can get behind the turning speed and the responsiveness of the SLS. A good example is I actually recently dislocated this finger here, and I was flying this kite with one hand, my bad hand no less, and I could really position the kite exactly where I wanted it, be able to take the power out of the kite, the super light bar pressure, and between the two kites, it was significantly noticeable just how responsive it was to fly the SLS with one hand. So that faster turning, the more response, it did make a big difference on the waves and on a foil board. I did get actually a good light wind foil session with this kite as well, in some waves no less, and it was really welcomed to have a kite that was that much more responsive and lighter. Now, when I took this out in the lighter winds on my surfboard, I noticed there was some improved drift. Nothing groundbreaking, but it definitely, like when the wind was lulling down to 13 and I was on a 9-meter Neo SLS, I did notice the kite stayed up there. On the surfboard, this made no difference as far as power. I didn't get any extra low end out of that 9 Neo when the wind dropped super low, but it did stay in the sky. I was able to work it for apparent wind, and then later on, a few days later when I went foiling with it, made a huge difference being out there. People were putting up their big kites, and like I was almost wondering what it was going to be like when there was big lulls like that. And standing on the beach, like I couldn't really hear any wind in my ears. I don't know exactly what it was blowing, but it was super light, and I was honestly kind of nervous about going out on a foil board because the water's getting cold here. I didn't want to be stuck out there dropping my kite in 30-degree water. But I popped the SLS up, and once I got it up in the air, as you would expect out of like all of these new lighter kites that we're seeing that everybody's kind of putting out, it did stay in the air, and with a foil you can generate apparent wind. So to that end, for foil boarders, it did make a big difference being able to create that apparent wind, work the kite. If you're a surfer, the extra advantage of keeping it up at lighter wind, it doesn't really benefit you in any way, other than the fact that it packs lighter. It fits into a smaller bag. They've got their smaller recycled material bags. So the big question that I promised to get to, is it worth it to upgrade to the Neo SLS? Now this is really up to the individual. If you have an unlimited budget and you just want to have the best, fastest, lightest kite, for sure. But if you're on a budget and you still want to get a killer wave kite, I don't feel like it's necessary to go to the SLS. The original Neo is an awesome wave kite. So if you already have a Neo, I don't feel like you're missing out and you need to just immediately upgrade to the SLS. I don't think it's terrible to wait a little while and pick one up a little bit later when maybe it becomes a norm or something like that. Or if you're looking for like a closeout Neo, that kite's still incredible. I stand behind it. I really like it. If you're a hydrofoiler, I do think it is a serious consideration, because having that little extra drift and having that extra light wind advantage is really going to benefit you. So while that might not attract every surfer who wants to have that extra speed and that extra light wind performance and that extra drift, but if you're on a foil board, that will make a difference. So I would take that into consideration, that the SLS probably would be worth the upgrade. If I had to choose myself, and this was going to be my kite for the year, I think I would go for the SLS myself. And normally I'm not the kind of person to go for upgrade stuff. I actually usually like to keep things simple. Like when I did a video a while back on the click bar and the truss bar, I actually like the truss bar. I like things to be really basic, but after flying the SLS, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually stoked on having that faster, lighter turning kite. It really was just kind of a joy to fly. I think it's like a difference of like 250 bucks. So in the long run, for a long-term investment, maybe that 250 is worth it just to have something that is that little bit much better. But I do stand behind the fact that I really don't think you're missing out on that much if you do just go for the Neo. So hopefully that kind of gives you some perspective. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Happy to answer. Give the shop a call. They can walk you through it. And hopefully you guys found this video helpful. So if you did, help me out. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.